We're live. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. Well, I've got to say, to all of the Celtic dads out there, and to everyone that said Mikey Johnston was pure pish, who's got the last laugh now? Because Mikey Johnston is on the cusp of a £5 million move to Brazil. What do we know? There we go. Mikey Johnston's on the cusp of a £5 million move to a team in Brazil. Mikey Johnston, a player who, let's face it, was chased out of Celtic. He was a player that Brendan Rodgers thought, I like you, Mikey, as a player. You've got a lot to offer Celtic. Mikey Johnston felt the pressure at Celtic and felt the abuse from fans. And I've got to say, I mean, Celtic sold him about a year ago for £3 million to West Brom. And everyone thought, good, he's gone, fucking brilliant, he's away. But who's got the last laugh now? Cheers, mate. Who's got the last laugh now? Because Mikey Johnston, he's away to Brazil. And I'll tell you one thing, there's not one of yous watching, there's not one person watching that would say, fuck off. You would swap Brazil in a minute, even if it's only for a couple of years, even if it's for a season. Do you know what I mean? For the chance of him to go to Brazil and play football, come on. I just think it's brilliant. I think it's a brilliant story, and I think do you know what? It's a two fingers up to Celtic fans for Mikey Johnston, who thought he was absolute rubbish. Now, I don't care the level of the team he's going to, I don't care, but he's another Scottish football player that is leaving this land, leaving the sinking ship that's the United Kingdom, and he's heading off to Brazil. So hats off. We nodded a hat to Mikey Johnston this morning because he did get a lot of stick. As Damien Duff was part of the setup, he said, I've not seen a player like Mikey Johnston do so well. I always understood why Mikey Johnston got so much stick, and it was because he was Scottish. It was because he was Scottish, and people would say, oh, it wasn't good enough. He went out on loan, and he was fantastic on loan. He came back to Celtic, he scored goals, and then he went, I don't need this shit in my life, gaffer. You know, Brendan Rodgers didn't really want to let him go. So anyway, that's Mikey Johnston out the way this morning. There is news. Celtic are looking to replace, obviously, Nico Kuhn, the one-hit wonder, the one-trick pony, as a lot of people are saying. And it looks like Celtic could go back to Rapid Vienna for Isaac Johnston. Now, a lot of people are saying maybe Balwishka, maybe that one will come to fruition. Celtic are still in talks with Royal Antwerp about getting Balwishka, but Celtic still need another winger. We're still two wingers. That means as it stands, we're two wingers down in what we need. Now, will Celtic will look at some of the B team players to see if they're good enough. They're not to step up. And I don't mean this disrespectfully when I say that they're not good enough to play for Celtic at the moment. You've got to think Champions League level. It's okay some of the younger players coming through into the squad, but are they Champions League level ready? Now this young Swedish guy, Isaac Johnston, he looks a player that is similar to Balwishka and similar to Benji that we've just brought into the club, because he could play as a centre forward. He could play as a striker. In fact, he's like Dyson Maida. He could play as a right winger, and he could play as a left winger. And the fact that he's valued at only €3.5 million, he does have a contract to 2028, so they will be looking for the full whack for him. But Celtic have got money in the bank, and I think it could be a good piece of business. Now people will say, well, we've not done too well with Swedish guys, and most recently with one player that came in, but a winger's a different position, and the fact that he's played in Spain for FC Cartagena, or Cartagena as the sat-nav calls it. It's Cartagena. He's played at Cartagena, and he played in Sweden. He went from Sweden to Cartagena for £1 million, and then he went from Cartagena to Rapid Vienna. So he's one to watch this week. It could be a stab in the dark, but I think that this is a player. He fits what Celtic are trying to do. He fits the business model as well. He's a player that can play in 3 important positions, which Brendan Rodgers is looking for. It gives us something different up front. People say, well, he's similar to Benji. He can play the 3 positions as well. Maybe that's what Brendan Rodgers is looking for. So for me, I think it's all good news so far. But the good news hasn't stopped there this morning. It's not. There's even more good news when it comes to the issue. We'll call it an issue. The Cameron Carter-Vickers issue, because let's face it, none of us knew that Cameron Carter-Vickers was needing some surgery towards the end of last season. You've got to remember, Cameron Carter-Vickers was out a couple of games towards the end of the season, and it was a little bit of a concern. But people will say, if he doesn't hit the ground running, we need to look somewhere else. He is our number 1 centre back, but Rodgers said Cameron Carter-Vickers will be back in full training this week, along with James Forrest and Rio Hatate. James Forrest, remember, he got injured towards the end of last season, but he managed to get that goal. He did. And Celtic men all around the world, and even at the game, burst into tears. Grown men at the stadium, the final game of the season, burst into tears. It was fantastic. Standing next to and talking to mates that you've went to the football with for years, and God, it was so emotional. It was so emotional. Everybody was just wanting James Forrest to score the final game of the season, and when he pops up and does it with just minutes to go, it was unbelievable. You know, the scoreline was irrelevant on the day. I mean, we could have got beat 5-1 as long as James Forrest scored. But, and Paul, talking about St Mirren, actually, the reason I'm talking about St Mirren, give me a second, hold the bus. The reason I'm talking about St Mirren is they played MK Dons yesterday. And they played MK Dons not far from where I stay, and down in Merthyr. And they won. They beat MK Dons. There you go. St Johnstone beat MK Dons 2-1 in Spain in a bounce match in a pre-season friendly. There's a couple of games next week I might go down and have a look at. The dog's throwing a ball at me. But I might put them on the other channel, but that's hereby anyway. We'll talk about that later. So, Brendan Rodgers talking about Cameron Carter-Vickers, James Forrest, Rio Hatate. He said that Cam had some issues around the end of last season, but we decided it was really important for him and he needed to get that operation. We knew the recovery time would mean he would miss the first week of pre-season. He's back working again and hopefully he'll be ready for the next few weeks. So he will miss out the trip to Ireland. It looks like he will travel to Portugal, but it looks like he might miss out the game in Portugal. Brendan Rodgers will be then looking to try and get as many as the first team players back. It was good to see everyone back in training, and it was good to see Marco Tilio, or as Michelle says, who? Young Marco is just. You've got to think for Marco. He's obviously been in Australia for the past couple of seasons, and because his employer's the other end of the world, he's had to fly all the way back over to Scotland. It's fucking freezing, it's pissing wet, it's cold, I fucking hate it. And it'll be Marco Polo. It'd be as well been Marco Polo, the way that he's travelling around the world, wouldn't it? But anyway, it would be. I wonder what he'll think if he's then told, "Nah, mate, you're not good enough. I'm going to send you back to Australia." He'll be raging, won't he? But the stats show that he's in better form. He finished last season in better form than the season before he came to Celtic. So it'll be interesting to see what Brendan Rodgers makes of that situation. But other than that, it's going to be an interesting week. Rocky makes his I'm incredibly happy exit. Rocky is a player who's went out to a lower league in Germany. Big smiles on his face. And over the 2 seasons, he started, I think, about 10 times, which I think, don't know what went wrong with him. But anyway, Rocky told the Hanover website, he says, I'm incredibly happy here now to be part of the team. I think we have an exciting journey ahead of us. With so many new players, new coach, we want to attack the coming season with renewed energy. Now is the time for me to quickly settle into training and the team and the club. Rocky's time, he was pushed back out. He was brought in to take over from Liam Scales and partner Cameron Carter-Vickers. It didn't work out for him for whatever reason. He was injured, Brendan Rodgers says, consistently over the past couple of years, which hasn't helped him. But then people could say that Cameron Carter-Vickers has been injured. If Rocky does well for them and joins them, we should get around about 2 million. Well, we're taking a massive hit on him. We're taking about, what is it, 1.4, 1.7 million hit? What did we buy him for? Was it 3.4 or 3.7? I can't remember. He's a player that, in stature wise, but if he's consistently getting injured in training, it's going to be, I just hope it's not. There was a young player that we brought in from Dundee a few years back, good few years back now, a defender, and he didn't get, he kind of went down the same road as Rocky. He didn't really get much a chance, but young Hendry has went on to have a fantastic career, and sometimes it takes, sometimes 4.3 Michelle says, thank you, I knew it was one of the two. Sometimes it takes a move away from Celtic to really fulfil your ambition. And I thought when we brought in Hendry from Dundee at the time, I thought it was a fantastic piece of business, and I thought he was going to be a fantastic defender, and he is. He's a consistent in the Scotland squad, and he's now playing in a foreign country. You know, sometimes it's difficult at Celtic. Brendan Rodgers has got a difficult job to do, because he spoke about the fact that there's so many young players coming through at the same time, but it's picking out the ones who have got the potential. And now this leads into the next part, is the Johnny Kenny part. Johnny Kenny is obviously a player that Celtic want to do well. Brendan Rodgers admitted that we'll obviously have the £500,000 bid for Johnny Kenny from Bolton. Celtic rate him at 1 million, but Celtic want to keep him. They want to keep him, but they're trying to decide on what's best for him. Brendan Rodgers says that he's spoken to a few clubs that want to take him on loan. Brendan Rodgers said about Johnny Kenny, I just want to have a look at him at pre-season to see where he's at and see what's going to be best for his development. We obviously want him to be a Celtic player. He's a goal scorer. There's absolutely no doubt about that. So Celtic do see him as having a long-term career at Celtic. They don't want him to be one of these players that slip through the net and go on to become a prolific goal scorer that's worth 20 to 30 million. So it's trying to decide, and Johnny Kenny seems to have a good head on his shoulders. When he came to Celtic from Shamrock Rovers, I've said this before, he was just a wee skinny lad, and he's grown and he's matured. There's a bit of a physicality about him. Do you know, he just needs that next year. This is probably the most important year for him in his football career. Will it be enough for him to stay at Celtic and get the fleeting bit of game time? Brendan Rodgers can watch him in training, but that doesn't improve him as a player, does it? So do we put Johnny Kenny out on loan, knowing that we've got the young Osmond that's just came in from Fulham? We could use him as a number 3, but then Brendan Rodgers might want to put him out on loan, just the same as what we might do with the Japanese defender Inamura that's just came into Celtic. It's going to be an interesting summer. I'm going to say that it's going to be an interesting summer, because I did say that there could be a high turnaround of players, and it's looking like that even though that we're getting rid of a lot of players, the players that we're wanting to keep for long term, you know, we're going to put them into positions where we can help them grow as players and then benefit the club in a year's time. But when it comes down to it, people want to see fantastic players now They want to see fantastic players being signed that can play now, not in a year's time, not in 2 years' time. That's what the B team's for. Baz, do you think Sidibe would do a good job for us? He's a big boy. Yes, Dave Morton, I think he would. But I still think that the young lad Connor Daly could put him out on loan to Ayr United and play under Bruni. Yep, and there's quite a few that I could. It's going to be interesting to see which players Celtic send to Bruni and which ones they send to Neil Lennon. It's going to be an interesting pre-season. Kenny made a loan at a high-ranked team. Yeah, Kenny does need that. I think it's interesting news as well. Kyogo, I forgot to go back on it anyway. What about Kyogo signing for Birmingham? That's an interesting one, Celtic are becoming loan sharks. We need to buy first team players, not ones to loan out and then sell them for a profit. I think that bringing in players, and I can understand where you're coming from, Supermark 67, but bringing in players that aren't quite ready for the first. We're going to lose a lot of players this summer. We're going to lose. You have to look at the squad, right? There's going to be, I've said, about 6 or 7 players that will leave the squad this summer, and people are saying, oh, yeah, but it's getting rid of the deadwood. Squad size, you can't shrink the squad any smaller, so you're going to have to bring in players to replace that squad size, and it's prudent of Celtic to bring in players and go, right, he's not ready for the first team yet, but he's a good buy. Think about it this way: Celtic have lost out on a striker. So we've just lost out on a striker that we've been chasing for years, right? Now the Brøndby player has went on. I think that Celtic put to bed in the last transfer window any aspirations to bring Matthias to Celtic. I think that was the last chance. The last chance of Saloon to try and bring Matthias was that window passed, and when it wasn't going to happen, I think Celtic had just went, right, that's it. We'll put it to bed. The fact that they missed out on the Brøndby striker Matthias 2 or 3 years ago for 300 or 400 grand. You know, they wanted 300 or 400 grand more, and Celtic went, no, we're not paying it. Well, look what's then happened. They went for millions more. So I think Celtic are well within their right, and it suits the business model. If we see a player that we can get in for 250 grand, like this defender, right, we can get him in and we go, right, he's not ready for the first team. We're going to have to put him out on loan somewhere, but it's where do we put him out on loan? For me, I'd be phoning up Birmingham and saying, mate, do you want to take this Japanese player on loan for us as well, just to get him some game time? He's going to be down there with Kyogo, he's going to be down there with Iwata, you know, so it gives him that little bit of home feeling, and it could help him progress as a player, and then he'll come back to us. You never know what will happen. But when there's other players that are coming in that we're loaning out, Johnny Kenny one, he's not ready to push Adam Ida out of the first choice striking role. He's not got the experience. Adam Ida is an international striker. You know, Johnny Kenny isn't. So you've got to think about how many players you've got for one position. And I just think it's time for Brendan Rodgers to be put to bed. God, the season's not even started yet, and Paul Baird's continuing with his hatred of Brendan. But at least he's consistent. He's been consistent for the last 3 seasons. Cannot keep spending big bucks on Engels and Adam Ida. To me, both are very overvalued. Said love it. I don't think that going over old ground. I think that Arne Engels will prove his worth. I think Arne Engels will prove a lot of people wrong. I think there's a lot of players that will step up to the mark this season, and it's happened before at Celtic. It's happened before. You know, you're sitting halfway through a season. People were saying that Nico Kuhn was shite the first half season he was here. When Nico Kuhn came in the January window, people were saying he was rubbish. He was pish. He was a waste of 3 million. Some people are never happy. Rocky was solid at the back. Can't understand why he never got a game. Injury. Brendan Rodgers said he was too injury prone in training. You've got to take the manager on his word. If we don't, he's talking shite. And my coffee's went cold. It's because I've been on here for 20 minutes. So we started off with Mikey Johnston giving 2 figures up to the whole of the Celtic fan base after he's set for a £5 million move. Nico Kuhn has left the building. Brendan Rodgers is looking at Isaac Johnson, Johansson, fucking Johnson on the brain. You see Johnson's wedding photos, and he's off on his honeymoon. Oh, bless him, It's the only time that he had. I can remember when he announced that he was getting married, and he said that he's only got like a 2-week window. And he said to his missus, it's this date or fucking we're never going to be able to do it and get a honeymoon, because you want to get married and have a nice wee honeymoon and bugger off. So yeah, Isaac Jansson, the Swedish player, this guy here, it looks like if he might be the one to replace Nico Kuhn. But then there is the old Bawishka question. Let's get rid of that Rocky one. I'll tell you one thing, this guy, Isaac, his oh, wait a minute. If we want to move for him, we're going to have to move quick, because he will play in a Champions League qualifier this Thursday the 24th. No, that's not this Thursday, it's fucking weeks away. Thursday the 24th. So this is one to watch, because Celtic will have to move before Rapid Vienna play in a Champions League qualifier, or he'll be null and void for the Champions League. So if Celtic are going to move for this guy, Celtic will want to get the business done quick. His valuation over the last year has risen by 2.5 million. A year ago, in 2024, he was only valued at 1 million. He's now valued at 3.5 million euros. So I still think that this Swedish guy, it could be one of those ones that just come total left field, and Brendan Rodgers goes, yep, that's the guy that I want. So anyway, Robbie Keane, worth a shot for manager. Robbie Keane, Arne Engels contributed to 23 goals in his first season with us and was playing in a different position. It's an awful buy. I'm not saying anything about Arne Engels, because I think that he's a player that is going to prove a lot of punters wrong. We need another Bobo Baldi at the back. Missed the guy, put the fear into the opposite. I think that we do, but I think that also if we go for this midfielder that's 6'4", I think that getting him in the door could be a good move as well. Martinez. I mentioned Martinez as soon as we went for his number 2 at Belgium. As soon as Sean Maloney came to Celtic, I said maybe, because you've got to remember, Martinez has been linked with Celtic before. But anyway, we've got Brendan Rodgers. I hear Rangers are coming again. I've not even looked, but I understand that they've signed an unbelievable amount of players. Well, I've just noticed that the new logo is up. Did you like the new logo? Where is it? It's down there. Anyway, let me see if there's any more Celtic nonsense that we could talk this morning. Obviously the Rio Hatate, Cameron Carter-Vickers and James Forrest. Good news is that they will be back in training this week. There's quite a few people talking about this Swedish guy. Do you know it's going to be interesting to see two ex-Celtic players playing against Celtic in in Como. Quinny was mentioning someone the other day, looks decent, can't mind his name. They've signed a load of freebies. They're world beaters. We're years ahead of them. They're the last thing that I'm going to worry about on any given day, especially in pre-season. Celtic have got so much business to go through. I mean, there's still the cloud, and I know you don't want to talk about it, but there's still the Dies and Maida cloud. It's been all good news so far in the transfer window. I think we can accept Nico Kuhn being sold, but the big one for me is still going to be the Celtic Duracell bunny, because Dyson Maida, with only a few years left on his contract, unless Celtic can tie him down to a new deal, it's one to watch. All these massive guys create screws at set pieces. Nah, I'm not interested in the zombies. Not at all. Who cares about them? So Celtic's next game, the first one is always the hardest one, as they say, for fans to watch. It's fucking keyboard's my way. It is always the hardest one for fans to watch because it's just a kick around, and Celtic changed the teams. The Celtic view's been modernised. Do you know that the Celtic View is one of the oldest written publications? Written football publications. Get the latest. When did you used to get it in the shops now? You used to go down to newsagents on Friday, get your Celtic View. Back in the day. I can tell you the last time I was in a newsagent. Do newsagents still exist? Anyway, it's 2 days, 8 hours and 11 minutes exactly until Celtic kick off in Cork. Rhymes, doesn't it? Until Celtic kick off in Cork. It's going to be interesting to see what players make the trip for that. Some of the first team players will not be travelling, Brendan Rodgers said, but all the Irish players will be, that's for sure. And they will have a fantastic day, and I know quite a lot of people that are heading over to Cork for it. A lot of people booked their flights and everything ages ago. Once you've been to Ireland a game once, you've done it, haven't you? I mean, it'll be good for the Irish fans to see Celtic playing in Cork City. The type of game it'll be, I've no idea. Will Brendan Rodgers try things tactically? It'll be interesting to see what formation. Celtic's views feel nothing but advertising nowadays. Yeah. If we get 25 million for Maida, it'll be off. That's the model. Everyone can be replaced, including Maida. Get the Rebs on. Let the people sing. Come out your black and tans, come on and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Too early? Nah. Maida is like signing two players. Dyson going through the middle is he's the best striker that we have at the moment, speed wise. So it'll be interesting to see if a bid does come in. What I don't want to happen is, a bid to come in too late in the window, because then it becomes hard. Cork had a great win yesterday in the hurling semi-final. What, they played in hurling and then football with the same team? Seen this documentary in Celtic TV for rent, even for paying subscriber. I'm not clicking on the right link. I think you've got to subscribe to Celtic TV to get. I don't know. What's Paddy's Point looking for a Celtic bar? I'll put it this way: there was only 2 people watching the game the other night. and that was from one of the guys that was there. It's okay, it can get a bit busy, but there's another Irish bar in Torrevieja that shows the Celtic games down at the waterfront. If you're in Torrevieja, any Rebs? Nah. There's only one guy that sings Rebel. It's not like Santa Ponza, mate. There's loads of Irish bars. It's down that area. It's a massive area for Irish bars, but there's no Rebel bars. There's no Rebel songs. They've got one guy that does. They've got one guy that does Rebel tunes in the area. That's all that I'm saying. No, Santa Ponza is your place for Rebs. I need to go over to Santa Ponza before the end of the season. Just turn up before the season starts even. But the missus let me go over myself, that's the thing. Work rate Maida does over the pitch is invaluable to us. Said love it. Yeah, it is. And I think that's the irreplaceable bit. I just want a new signing to get excited about, said Michelle. But Kieran Tierney no excite you? Benji no excite you? Because that's the only two players that we've brought in so far that are walking straight into the first team. In the sky. Yeah, that's the only two players that we've brought in that are walking straight into the first team. I understand why there is that little bit of frustration. You know, we haven't really made the squad. We've made the squad better, and we're getting the squad better. But first team choices. Start a revolution. Could do. Anyway. Right, I'm only staying on for half an hour this morning. That time, we've never even done a poll this morning. There was nothing really to do a poll about. Get Maida tied up and give him 50, 60 grand a week. It's not the Celtic way. Looking forward to seeing Osmond. Do you think Osmond will get some game time in Ireland? I think there's a chance that he will play there. I think once the time that we go to Portugal, you'll see some of the B team players start to drop off and get sent out to other clubs. KT will be injury prone. Hope I'm wrong. We've still to bring in a backup to Kieran Tierney. Whilst we're not going to spend big on the backup to Kieran Tierney, we are going to need to bring someone in, whether it be through the B team. Anyway. Monty, I'm not doing that as a poll. That's terrible banter. That's Sunday morning. Paulo Bernardo, underrated player. Paulo Bernardo's bound to feel. Here's the thing. I mean, Paulo Bernardo signed for Celtic last year after being on loan, and he's signed the contract for Celtic, and he's like, I'm going to master the midfield, and then we're going to bring in Arnie Engels, and Arnie Engels gets all the game time. We'll love the Green Brigade singing Puppy Love for Osmond. Did you see Young Frame was played? He had a decent option for backup left wing. Yeah, I thought Mitchell Frame, Big Rab, I said that on the night. I thought that Mitchell Frame was one of the players that had a stand out in the first half. Dane Murray did well the first half. Mitchell Frame did well the first half. Those were two players that I thought, you know, they're ones that you could see in and around the first team. Whether it happens or not is a different thing altogether. You can see Paulo going back to Portugal. Do you think I don't think he'll go back to Portugal. Do you think he'll go on? He's not going to go on loan. Celtic need him as a first team player. I just hope he gets to real. It's a weird one at Celtic. Celtic can take. Is the captain of the under 21s Portuguese team, their national team. He's captain. You've got to be a half decent player for Portugal if you're captain. What is it about Celtic that we can bring fantastic players to the club, and then we don't seem to get the best out of them? You know what I don't want to see is Paulo Bernardo maybe leaving Celtic and then going on to be a superstar. And I think that might happen with a younger player Ben Summers was decent. Yep, there was quite a few of them decent. I thought the second half the other night, it was B team standard. It was B team standard. Wait for the rumours about Paolo. I don't think there'll be rumours. Anyone starting to panic yet? No, Monty. Why would you feel panicked? It's only the 6th of July. We've got until the 3rd of September to get transfers in. There's still a good two months to go the transfer window. It's very rarely that Celtic get so many players in at this early stage. Usually Brendan Rodgers is bemoaning the fact that he's wanting his players in before they go on their tours, and he's got some players in early this season. Who was the young lad in the second half the other night, the red hair that stood out? The 16-year-old. Young 16-year-old player. He's too young. Connor Daly. Connor Daly was his name. So yeah, the fact that he is only signed, he's an interesting one because he only signed his first professional contract with Celtic. He came from the under-16s and he's went into the B team straight away. But Brendan Rodgers must have been told something about him to take him to that game, because there's not many players that come in at that level and you're thinking 16-year-old and he's made his debut for Celtic in pre-season already at 16. So Celtic must think that he's going to be a player. And I think that he could be the future Callum McGregor. I really think that he could be the future Callum McGregor. There was something about him. His first touch, I'll give him his due, his first touch on the ball, he turned around and passed it backwards. And I'm like, don't do that, lad. And then you seen Luke McCowan was not on the pitch then. You seen other players sort of talking to him. And then he started to take up positions in the midfield. And you're starting to see that little younger version of Callum McGregor. And I'm thinking, could he be the next one? Could he be the next one? But he's only 16. He's 2 years away from getting into the first team, I would say. But you never know. He might be the next superstar in the making. One of our own. 16-year-old, that would be something else. If you're good enough, age doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, but the physicality side of the Scottish football. And I'll go back to Alex Bailly that came from Barcelona. He didn't like the physicality of Scottish football. Do you know? I can remember one game that Alex Bailly was playing, and he gets fucking. It wasn't a shoulder charge. The elbow was up like this, and he gets whacked onto the floor. Now in Spain, it's a foul all day long, but in Scotland it's not. And Brendan Rodgers was like, "Mate, that's Scottish football. We just need to get on with it." And I think Alex Bailly was like, "Fucking, this is just thuggery. It's not football. It's just thuggery, this league." He's the ginger Yamal. That would be something else if he was, I tell you. But anyway, yeah, talking about the young lad for Barcelona, he then gets says Fabregas, who knows a thing or two about decent players. Let's face facts. He gets on the phone to the young lad and said, "Do you want to come to Como? Let's see if we can get your contract done in short. Come to Como and we'll buy you for $6 million." And there you go. Boom. Brendan Rodgers in charge. He's probably 5 years away. Oh, my pitchfork has been sharpened. Oh my God. That's it. If he's the next McGregor, Brendan will probably have him playing left back behind Kieran Tierney. I'm going to state this, right? Connor Daly. Remember that name. And remember that I said that he would be a first team regular and potential captain in years to come. I did this. I called it with Callum McGregor years ago. And there was something about that young lad. And I know he's still young, and it'll be interesting. And I'm going to give Brendan Rodgers his due. Over the last couple of days, when he's been talking to the media, he's been talking about pathway. And it's a reoccurring theme that he's going down when he's talking about players. And not just the younger players that are coming into the club. You know, the defender that we've just bought for 250 grand. He's talking about pathway into the first team. He's been talking about Tisdale. He's been mentioning Tisdale. He's been talking about Sean Maloney. I think that Celtic now understand that we need to be doing better when it comes to younger players coming through. We need to map out the pathway better. And I think that's what's been letting Celtic down when it comes to younger players. You know, this whole concept of just you go out on loan and then you come back and get into the first team, it doesn't seem to be working. So hopefully Sean Maloney and Paul Tisdale can get the best out of the younger players and giving them a proper pathway and a mapped out pathway. And you know, not just saying to them, do you know what? It's like, let them see the journey to get into first team stardom, because that's what the younger players want. They want to see that they've got the pathway to be that Celtic star. They'll want to be Celtic stars, right? They want to be Celtic superstars. Every single young player that comes through Celtic, but a lot of them don't see how they're going to get to that point. So their agents then start talking to them and going, fuck this, we can get you a better deal. We can get you a better deal. Come on, fuck it. We'll get you playing somewhere else and we'll get you more money. But hopefully Brendan Rodgers is right. Enough about the PR for Brendan Rodgers, Baz. Making a screaming sound like one of those tiger tail balloons for Glasgow. Fair enough. What? You're making what noise? I want Ralston to volley Kuhn and the boss is Monty. That is going to be the one, isn't it? I want Tony Ralston's not even been in training. I've never seen him. Tony Ralston just to go Kuhn, fucking go right through him, poof, snap him. That's it. And then just go, all right, mate. What is it? If we play Como, it'll be KT up against Kuhn. I hope Tierney goes through him then. How much did you get sold for, mate? Is that all? I got sold for Celtic for 25 million. Alright. Absolutely brilliant. Anyway, let me see if there's anything else. I'm just checking out some of the news. Benji. Oh my god. This is the headline. Benji is one of those marquee signings by Celtic this summer. That's a Celtic website for you. A marquee sign. He's not a marquee signing. I don't want to read the rest of it. They're comparing him to Tom Rodgick. Anyway, that has been done and dusted on this Sunday morning. What does everyone think about what? We still haven't got new Scott Brown type. No, we haven't. We need a new Scott Brown type. Don't kid yourself. Mikey Johnston was pish for us. He played up front 3 times versus them and done sweep F all. He done nothing in a Celtic shirt. Green for go. He's on his way to Brazil. So if he's the Raphael shite of Celtic, he's got the laugh last. I'm glad the young lad stood out, being nostalgic about Tommy Burns. Yeah, there is that Tommy Burns effect about him, but you want him to be a better player than Tommy Burns. Tifflegate. God, we're talking about Tiffles already. Anyway, I might jump on a live later on this afternoon, get a Sunday sesh going. I might jump on around about 4:30 or something. I don't know, just keep an eye on the channel. We might do, just see what's going on and look at the week ahead for Celtic and potential comings and goings. Anyway, my biggest question is, why did they play 3 up front for us when it was obvious that he was pish? Can't wait for the season to begin. Hopefully we'll have a fit squad. Wasn't 100% performances on Friday night. I still think Brendan does need to do well this season. That's what we'll talk about this afternoon. Expectations for the season. And Brendan Rodgers likes to set targets for the season. And we'll sit this afternoon and we'll discuss what you think the targets may be in goals, Champions League, qualifying for the Champions League, how far we can get, and individual goal tallies for the season. Anyway, on that note, have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.